Hello, you guys. My name is Mohammed, and welcome to my interview. My interview was an organization based on brothers elderly, little brothers elderly and friendly. This organization is about basically about about elderly population with age 65 and above, and I interviewed one of the office managers who worked there, and I asked him questions about my interview and what was my assignment was, and that I'm a student at St. Mary. So I asked him about the first question. I asked him about my about my questions. So my first questions was, are there any specific cultural considerations in working with specific populations? Um, and his response was, we work with all cultures and ethnicities and backgrounds. The specific population we work with is age 65 and plus, which is elderly population. I'm not sure we typically think of them as elderly as having as their own culture. So he said the answer is no. And my second question was specific consideration that may be perceived as resistance. His response was no. How to establish and create a report. A report. Our volunteers are not given a training on this and are trusted to use their interpersonal skills to build and maintain a friendship with their elder. The same skills that they would establish and build a rapport with anyone are used in this situation. That was his response about creating and establishing a rapport. My fourth question was, how's mental perceived with this population? When we're talking about this population, we're talking about the elderly population, basically the baby boomers. And his response was, as he was trying to clarify, he said, do you mean how's mental health perceived within the population of 65 and above and over adults who are isolated and lonely? He said there's a higher prevalence of mental health concerns for sure, but I'm not sure how their population views it. Probably, he said, according they take it as a given. And I asked him about, is there any specific therapeutic interventions that work well with this populations? He said his response was no. So there's no any therapeutic interventions that work well with this population. Um, so he said no. And my the other question I asked him was, is there any cultural barriers to receiving help? Um, Receiving help from us, he said. Well, that means his response was language. So that was his language. He said, I suppose if you mean if there's any cultural barriers according to elderly population, so I would suppose there would be a language barrier ab- of them receiving help, communication, I suppose, you know. So the other question I asked him was ethical considerations when working with these populations. He said, our volunteers have to pass a background check and adhere to our policies to show. So they have to pass a background check and to commit to their policy to follow the rules of their policy. Obviously, seniors are more susceptible to being scammed, so that's one of them. So that's one of the answers he has given me. And the other question I asked him, this is the question I added for my interview, and I said, is there any change that might affect the culture of this population? So which means that, is there any change that might affect them, as they baby boomers, as they grow older? Like, is there any culture, population that might affect them? Whether it might be a language, whether it might be, any other thing, and that might affect them personally. He said, again, I don't think of lonely and isolated seniors as having as their own unique culture on the level that, say, a tribe of Native Americans may have. So Native American tribes may be different from this populations, from seniors. So this was my interview, and that I did. And Michael Hess, that was his name. He's a office manager of this organization named Elderly Little Brothers Elderly and Friendly. Is located in Lake Street. So I would appreciate you guys for your help, and thanks for listening to me, and thank you. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day.